how to build a gaming PC for beginners in 2024, and I have prepared a $1,600 gaming PC build for you guys with a very nice premium graphics card that you can enjoy. If you want to see and learn that step by step how I do that build, stay tuned. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Lexar Memory. Many gamers and professionals already use Lexar to work quickly and efficiently because Lexar has a large selection of innovative storage products. You too can discover the advantages of Lexar in your next PC build if you want. And as well, thank you to Arctic Cooling and for providing the Freezer Esports Duo, powerful CPU cooler for the demanding user. And guys, for this PC build, I have selected a really nice case that's just launched here in Germany and the European market, the Motherboard TK2. And let's quickly unbox that and have a closer look. Here you see some of the inside when I opened up the box. But more importantly, this is a little bit of a special case that's very nicely designed, especially for lovers of RGB effects, since it's a rounded case with a good airflow and very spacious design. Guys, I'm very excited about this. So here you can see this rounded glass. And these kind of cases, they become more and more popular with a lot of people. And also the build quality of the Motherboard TK2 is really excellent. As you can see, metal finishing and a good airflow venting on top, where you can put in a water cooling or you can run it air cooled depending on your preference. And later in the video, I'm also going to show you how to install the power supply in a case like that, because that's a little bit different compared to other cases. And guys, what's the first step when you put together a new gaming PC? Of course, you prepare the main board, because it saves you a lot of work. And yeah, you could take the Gigabyte like I shown you, or you could take a Asus board like the Rockstrix. It's really up to you. We're building still on the AM4 platform. That's still a really good value build, and I still have some of the AM4 boards, so that's what I'm going to use. Of course, you could also build that on AM5. And if you want a little bit more powerful CPU, I can also definitely recommend the CPUs with the Ryzen CPUs with the X3D cache, although they tend to run somewhat warmer. Let's jump to step one, install the processor. You open this latch. AM5 is designed slightly different, but here on the AM4 you see it has this small indicator, and you just put that in the CPU socket. With the AM5 mainboards, they have updated the socket slightly. These AM4s, they still use these pins. Then once that is seated, we go on and install the memory. Thanks again to Lexar for providing the Tor DDR4 memory. Really nice memory kit, and it works very well. I've tested this in a variety of builds. And important, you always put this in bank A2 and B2, since that's where the memory terminates. That's a small hint that I can give you here also as an overlay, since yeah, that's where the signal terminates. And the memory signals, their memory is connected to the CPU. That's high frequency signals. Next jump to step 3, just put in an NVMe. These NVMe mainboards that come with an NVMe cooler, such as this, you purchasing for an NVMe. There are different standards. PCI 3.0 works fine. PCI 4.0 I think is right now the best value. Is already very nice and fast. The newer gen PCI 5 is still a little bit more expensive. And also if you have an older board, that wouldn't work. In this case, I'm using PCIe 4, where Lexar has provided here this NM790 with cooling element. But if your mainboard has a cooler, you can also take the one without cooling element. It's really up to you. And I'm putting this in the uppermost slot, since this is directly connected to the CPU and not via the chipset. So installing a CPU cooler. Guys, there's so many coolers. I do not recommend the stock cooler, although that works. The stock cooler really runs pretty hot in comparison to an aftermarket cooler. In this case, we are using the Arctic. So just removing quickly, I'm speeding this up for you, a couple of those screws. And guys, don't do that if you have a main board that's in your case. At least with the AM4, that doesn't work so well. With the AM5, it's a different story. The Arctic cooler, very nice cooler. A little bit different way of attaching that to the board, as you can see here. And also the fan mechanism is slightly different. And yeah, really important, if you have the Arctic, look in the manual. You need to have the right spacers, but there should also be a QR code on the fan's box. So make use of that if you want a even more in-depth step-by-step guide. Guys, there is some thermal paste included. I'm mostly using the MX4, but recently also trying the MX6, which performs a little bit better even. And yeah, as to the thermal paste, just apply a small piece-sized amount, something like that should be totally sufficient. And then when you attach the cooler, carefully seat that in place like so. Take these screws, and again, I'm going to speed this up for you guys. Just do it in ideally in a crisscross pattern, step by step, until it's like really hand tight. And you're finished with the board. The board is prepared, and that's going to save you a lot of time. It's much more comfortable to work than when you do that inside the case. One last tip, since this is a dual fan design with push-pull configuration, we're attaching the cable to the board, and then I have a cable tie here. You could imagine if the fans also had RGB, it would be even a little bit more cables. So keep everything neat and organized. That's definitely recommended, because that makes your motherboard install a lot smoother. And guys, again, I really like this case. Great to work with. Make sure the spacers are in the right place. Some people, they may use a different board. I personally prefer the ATX size. I'm not a big fan of these smaller boards. Unless you do a smaller build, carefully put that in place. And again, quickly reaching for the screws. Make sure you select the right ones. Sometimes there are a bunch in the case. You don't want to take the wrong ones. In case you just refer to the manual. And again, that should be 3 at the bottom, 2 in the middle, and 3 at the top. You do that step by step, and here also you can remove 2 of the slot covers, because we're gonna slot in the CPU in a minute. Really awesome, these LIAN fans, guys. These fans are amazing. I didn't realize how cool they are. They have their own controller, they have a mirror effect, and overall they harmonize perfectly with the graphics card. And also it's a very nice clean design, because as you can see, they all interconnect, which you only connect one cable at the top like so, and then install the fans, and that's it. It couldn't be more perfect. And the RGB effects, in my opinion, are superior to other fans, other RGB fans that I have seen. Now, installing the graphics card. Guys, fair enough, this is a little bit overkill for a 4070, the Asus ROG Strix. Super nice cooling element, 3 big fans, air exhausting at the back. But the best is the RGB, because this is like an RGB ring that moves, and for some strange reason, the RGB effect from the Asus card fits perfectly with the LIAN fans. It almost looks the same. And we're progressing rapidly, because now we come to the power supply. And guys, as you can see, since it's not the normal case design, everything looks a little bit different than from a normal PC case that you might are aware of. So remove the top, remove the back cover, and then we can install the power supply. Also, if you have a modern graphics card like a 4070, RTX 4070 or RTX 4080, please make sure, ideally in a new build, take an ATX 3.0 power supply with this new 16-pin connector. That's, in my opinion, much nicer than working with the traditional power supply, because then you always have to work with the adapter. So for the power supply, there's this frame here. Take that out, and then again attach it to the power supply. I'm also speeding this up. The Asus TUF Gaming is a very nice power supply. I'm very happy with that power supply. Solid performance so far. Asus did a great job with that one. And here we have the fan controller. So the fan controller is a little bit messy because it has so many cables, but it's totally worth it in my opinion. How do you wire everything up? I wired everything up, put some cable ties around it to make it more organized, and we're gonna look at the main board and all the connectors a little bit more in detail, as you can see here. So orange are the power connectors that go to the board, and here also you can see the VRMs that supply the processor and such. And guys, not all VRMs are created equal. Usually the DMOS are very good, and if you have a lot of phases. Now, zooming in a little bit at the cabling, you can see, please always refer to your mainboard manual, because there can be slight variations, but that's in general the audio connector, the fan controller connector via the USB, and also the front USB of the case in this case, and also here again the diagram. Also, don't miss out on the red ones. That's the power LED and the power switch. That can be slightly different. The PC cases sometimes have a different connectors, but it's really very doable and then also very fast if you just have a look at the manual. Guys, that's a $1,600 gaming PC, really quickly put together, and it looks, in my opinion, amazing. I really love this design, especially in the evening when I come into my room. That is a real eye catcher in my opinion. Yes, it's not necessary, but it's very enjoyable to look at. And yeah, guys, what do you think? Is that something you would be interested in? Yes, it's still AM4, but in my opinion, AM4 performs really, really well. And if you want to get even a few more FPS, you could also take the X3D processor. Excellent, guys. This concludes today's gaming PC build for $1,600 with, I think, a pretty well balanced configuration. Here, the quick reminder, you just watched video number 2 out of this 3-part series. In video number 1, I showed you how to pick the best gaming PC parts. Now in video number 2, I showed you how to do the gaming PC build for a beginner, if you're a beginner, or maybe you just wanted to follow that build, even if you're a seasoned pro. But most interestingly, in part 3, we're going to do the benchmarks. We're going to test this PC and make some comparisons. How well does, for example, this RTX 4070 play with the 5600X? Should you maybe step it up to X3D or for $300? Or what if you would have built that whole system on a very expensive AM5 platform, spending a fortune? Would that actually give you more FPS in the gaming? Does this make sense? All this and more coming up. Leave a subscribe, look into the playlist, and I see you in the next video.